Hello and welcome to Maki's Closet. On today's tutorial, we'll be drafting a monostrap jumpsuit with a puffy sleeve. Please stick to the end of the video to get the full details. So I've gone ahead and I've marked my shoulder to bust line, my shoulder to under bust line, and my shoulder to where my top of the jumpsuit will end. Then I marked half inches. So to get that, the length of where your top length will reach, I didn't mark my waist. So I did my under bust plus 3, which is my half length. So I wanted the upper part of my jumpsuit to be a bit higher. That's why I didn't use my waist length, but you can also use your waist length if you want to, but I made use of my half length. So next I'm going to be placing my tape, and I'm going to mark my shoulder divided by 2. The shoulder I'm working with divided by 2, I marked it, and I marked half inch because we are going to be attaching sleeve to the dress. So from that point I went down by 1 inch, and I'm going to connect it to the other side of the pattern, creating a shoulder slant. After marking my shoulder slant, the next thing I'm going to do is to place my tape at that point, and I'm going to mark my chest line. So to get your chest line is your bust divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So I'm going to indicate it. So the chest line I'm working with is 7.5, and I'm going to place my rule and make my tape, and make sure I have that 7.5. Then after that, I'm just going to draw out the line. I'll mark it out with a pencil first before drawing my armhole curve. After drawing the line, the next thing is to insert my armhole curve. So I'm going to measure that's my armhole, and I will divide it by 2. So whatever I have, I'm just going to mark it at that point. So after marking it at that point, I'm going to go in by half inch. Then from that half inch, I'm going to connect it from the top to the chest line. So you can make use of your French curve, or you can make use of your freehand sketch, depending on what you're working with. After outlining it with my pencil, the next thing I'm going to do is to take my marker, and I'm going to outline my armhole curve, and then I'll blend it down to the chest line properly. After doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to insert or mark my neck depth and neck width. So for my neck width, I'm going to mark 3 inches. So for my neck depth, I'm going to mark 3 inches. I marked 2.5 earlier, but I noticed that it was too small. So from there, I'm just going to place my French curve, and I'm going to draw connecting the lines. After connecting the lines, I'm just going to take my marker, and I'm going to outline it so that it will be very visible. From there, the next thing I'm going to do is to insert my body circumference. So at my bust, I'm going to mark the bust circumference I'm working with divided by 4, and I'm going to add 2.5 inches allowance to the dress. So you can make use of 2 inches allowance. Then after that, I'll go down at my under bust, and I'm going to mark my under bust divided by 4 plus 2.5 inch. So whatever I have at my under bust, I'm going to extend it to my top length, or the upper part of the jumpsuit. Like I said earlier, we are not making use of the waist here, because I want my jumpsuit, the upper part, to be a bit higher. I prefer it that way than starting at my navel. After doing that, I'm just going to connect my lines with a rule and outline it properly. After outlining it, the next thing I'm going to do is just to take a scissors, and I'll cut out my pattern first before we alter the neckline or the shoulder part to get a monostrap. After cutting out the pattern, the next thing I'm going to do is to spread it open. So from this part, you choose the side that you want to cut out or make a monostrap. So I want my monostrap to be on the left side of my dress. So from there, I'm just going to draw the neckline that I want. So from the picture, you notice that the neckline is straight, is not really curvy, it's just a straight line. So I'm going to place my tape and I'm going to mark 3 inches because the monostrap is high. From there, the other side of the neck, I'm going to connect to that 3 inches that I marked. And while drawing the line, I'm going to make sure it's a bit straight or slightly slanty. After marking out that, I'm just going to place my rule and I'm going to draw a line to make sure the line is straight. Then after doing that, I'll use my marker and I'm going to outline it so that it will be very visible. Then after doing that, I'll go ahead and I'll cut off that part that I just marked. But before I do that, I'll make sure I blend in the lines. So after cutting that part, this is what I have for the front pattern. So as you can see, the tutorial is very easy and beginner friendly. So to cut my back pattern, I'm just going to take a plain brown paper and then I'll place my front pattern on it, unfold. So from that point, the folded part of my front pattern, I'm going to mark 2 inches for zipper allowance. So I'm going to mark from the beginning to the end. After doing that, I'm just going to draw a straight line connecting the lines. After connecting the lines, the next thing I'm going to do is to cut out the excess I have left. After cutting out the excess I have left, I'm going to trace out my pattern and cut it out. I'll also trace out the same neckline I have in front and also at the back. The next thing I'll do is to get rid of puff at the back or bulginess at the back. If you notice, the back is flat, mostly flat because there's no bust at the back. So what I'm going to do is to mark 1/2 inch, and from that 1/2 inch I'm going to connect it down to my pattern. Then I'm going to use my scissors and I'm going to cut it out. So after cutting it out, the next thing I'm going to do is to pin exactly at that point. That's 2 inches for my zipper allowance that I marked earlier. I'm just going to pin it out. After pinning it out, the next thing I'm going to do is to indicate the front and the back side of the pattern, since the pattern has no front and the side. So the reason why you're doing this is to know the side that you will place for the front part of your material and the part you will place for the back part of your material, and so that you will not get confused. So after that, I'm just going to flip it open to the other side, and here becomes my front pattern. So if you noticed, after sewing your back, the zipper area is always inside, so that's why I pinned it that way. So I'm just going to also label or outline my front pattern. So next, I'm going to flip the front part of my pattern and keep it at the back side. Then the back side will be facing up. Then I'll take my pattern and also make sure the back and the back is facing each other. Just like in fabric, your front pattern, the main front pattern is always in front, while the back part is inside the dress. So after doing that, what you're going to do next is to just place and cut out exactly what you have on your front pattern. You cut out the neckline of your back pattern. So with that, your pattern is ready. Next, after that, I'm just going to flip my pattern and I'm going to unpin my pattern. I'm going to place my back together and make sure I trim out little excess I have at the back. After doing that, my upper pattern is ready, and I'm going to be inserting the dart while sewing, so I won't be marking out the darts at this point. So the dart is still the normal dart intake. So for the down part, at the trouser part of the jumpsuit, you're going to fold first. So to fold, you're going to fold with your laps divided by 2 plus 2 inches. So whatever you measure on your laps, you're going to divide it by 2 plus 2 inches. After doing that, what you're going to get next is your trouser length. So in this case, remember earlier, our upper part stopped at our half length, not at our waist length. So the half length we marked was 15.5 inches. So I'm going to place my tape at the beginning point at that 15.5 inches, and then the shoulder to bust we are working with is 18.5. So I'm going to mark 18.5. So for the trouser measurement, whatever measurement I'm taking will start from that 18.5. So the reason why we mark that 15.5 up is to make up the area that we removed from the waistline in the top. So for clarity's sake, I'm still going to repeat myself. So when we were cutting the jumpsuit, instead of stopping at the waistline, we did our under bust plus 3, which is our half length, which is your under bust plus 3, which is a bit higher than your half length. So in order to get that part which was not included in the top area, you have to place your tape at that 15.5 and measure till you get to that 18.5. So with this, your jumpsuit, the trouser part will be higher and not be lower beneath your navel after you join your jumpsuit. So whatever measurement you're going to take for the trouser part now will start at the 18 inches. So from that 18 inches, I'm going to get the trouser length I'm working with. So the length of the trouser I'm working with is 42 inches plus 2 inches for folding or turn up allowance, which brings me at a total of 44 inches. So like I said earlier, to fold your trouser, you're going to be folding with your laps. So the laps measurement I have is 27 divided by 2 inches. I have 13.5, and I'm going to be adding 2 inches extra, which brings me to 15.5. So I'll place my tape and I'll make sure I have that 15 inches and half. So after measuring that, I'll take my tape, and at that point, I'm going to measure 3 inches inwards. So the reason why I'm marking this 3 inches is to mark my crotch. So from where my waist measurement is, I'm going to mark my crotch depth. So I'll mark that 3 inches. I'm going to connect it down to my crotch depth. The crotch depth I'm working with is 11 inches. So from there also, I'll extend it to the upper part. I'll go ahead and I'll place my tape at my navel or waist point. So at that point, I'm going to mark my waist circumference divided by 4 plus 1 inch allowance. So in trouser, you're not supposed to give too much allowance. So 1 inch is enough. So I'm just going to mark it there. So whatever I have at that my waist length, I'm going to extend it to the top of my trouser. Like we said earlier, that's 15.5 inches we started from. I'm going to extend it to that point. So coming down, I'm going to place my tape at that my waistline, and I'm going to mark 8 inches for my hip point, and I will draw out the mark. So at that my hip point, I'll place my tape and I'm going to mark my hip divided by 4 plus 1 inch allowance. Like I said, trouser doesn't really need much allowance, so I'll just mark my hip divided by 4 plus 1 inch allowance. So for my lap area, I'm going to place my tape at my crotch area. So at that point, I'm going to insert my lap circumference divided by 2 plus 1 inch allowance. So like I said earlier, for clarity's sake, for your lap measurement or circumference, you place it at that your crouch mark or crouch point, and you're going to mark your lap divided by 2 plus 1 inch. So for your hip and your waistline, you're going to divide it by 4, and for your crouch, you're going to divide, for your lap, you're going to divide it by 2. So from that point, I'm going to place my tape at that 18 inches, at that my waist length, and I'm going to mark my trouser half length. So to get your trouser half length, you're going to measure from your waist to your knee point. So at that my trouser half length, I'm going to go in by 1.5 inches. After marking my 1.5 inches, I'm going to draw a line connecting it to my crotch or crotch area. So while connecting, make sure your line is slightly straight or a straight line. Do not draw a curve at this point. So coming to the other side of the trouser, I'm going to connect from that upper part to my waistline to my hip and then down to my lap. Then after connecting to my lap, I'm going to go down to my trouser half length, which is my knee. The knee round I measured or I'm working with is 19 inches. So you're going to do 19 inches divided by 2. So I'm just going to fold my tape into 2. So whatever I have, I'm going to place it and I will mark. After marking it, I'm going to mark 1 inch for allowance. Just like I said, trouser does not require much allowance. Then I'll go ahead and connect from my trouser lap down to my trouser half length. Then I'm going to blend in my lines properly so that I won't have any sharp edges or loop or ear by the side of the trouser. After that, I'm just going to move my material and I'm going down to the lower part of the trouser. So from the picture we have at the thumbnail, the down part of the trouser is free, but while making mine won't be as free as that, although mine will be free at the down part. So at the lower part of your trouser, you're going to place your tape and you're going to mark 2 inches. So from that 2 inches, you're just going to connect your line. After connecting your line, you're just going to blend it out or draw it out very well. So for the down part of my trouser, I'm just going to take my tape and I'll extend it to 12 inches from that point. So the reason why I'm doing this is to have a very free trouser at the down part. More like a semi palazzo trouser, because I don't want mine to be too full or too wide at the down part. So you can go ahead and make yours to be more. That means while folding your trouser, you're going to be considering the width, the wideness at the down part, and you're going to fold with more allowance. I'll go ahead and I'll draw out the lines that I marked already. So coming up to my crotch area, I forgot to mark that point. I'll place my tape, mark 1 inch, and I'm just going to draw a curve at that point. So with this, my trouser pattern is ready. So what I'll do next is just to cut out what I have. So at this point, if you find this video very interesting and educative, please support this channel by hitting on the subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up, share, and don't forget to turn on your notification button to get updates from my channel. And also drop your comments at the comment section. So I'm done cutting out the trouser pattern. This is what I have. So I went ahead to fold another fabric beneath it, and I placed the first one I cut out. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to place my tape and I'm going to mark 2 inches. So the 2 inches I'm marking here is for the butt allowance or the sitting allowance, because the back is not as flat as the front. So at that curved part, I'm going to place my tape this way and I'm going to draw out the curve and I'll connect to the other side. After connecting, I'll go ahead and I'll mark the 2 inches from the beginning to the lower parts of this trouser. After marking it, this is what I'm going to have. So at the down part, you're just going to trace out and cut out exactly. And also for the other side of the trouser, you're just going to cut with the 2 inches allowance that you added. Then on the other side of this trouser, you're just going to trace out exactly what you have. So after cutting this, in our next tutorial we'll be doing the sewing of the jumpsuit. So with this, we are coming to the end of the tutorial. So if you find this very interesting and educative, please like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and don't forget to turn on the notification button to get new updates from my channel, and also drop a comment at the comment section. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for always watching my channel. Thank you for always watching my video and supporting my channel to this point. Thank you. So this is the final look of the trouser, and this is what you're going to have at the end after cutting it. So this is ready for joining. So in our next video, we'll be sewing the jumpsuit.